and the rest of the planet that they had a very interesting capability. If we were to postulate that this was indeed caused by the Russian version of HARP, or their scalar weapon technology group, then it's basically saying to everybody, look, we actually created this little null zone where reality doesn't exist in the middle of this swirly thing, and it only took us a little few minutes, and it only took this amount of energy. And by the way, if you were to, for instance, fly a missile or an airplane or something into that null zone, it would also become null. That is to say, it would disintegrate, wouldn't exist. It actually appears on some of the infrared and other photos that are available out there that there was a no space, no time kind of condition created at the middle of that swirly thing for a few minutes.
So it seems to be a show of force. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Demonstration for our president.
Yeah. Because, see, here's the problem. The Russians and Chinese desperately don't want to attack the U.S. for various different reasons. Not the least of which is the economic harm to their own status, and then what they would have to deal with in the world that would exist afterwards. Nor do they really want a world war, and yet everything is progressing us along that path of inevitability as their analysts look out and see with the hardening of attitude of the Israelis versus the Iranians, the lies that are being spewed about their language involved, all of the hidden war going on, the attacks in South Ossetia, the moves against Russia, this whole great game being played by the Illuminati is getting a little bit blatant and wearing. I mean, in the sense of, it's just starting to irritate people. And so maybe they just took it up a notch and said, if you attack us or institute a world war with conventional weapons, we're not going to respond that way. We're going to respond with what we've got now, which is into this new subquantum kinetics or scalar or hyperdimensional, whichever way you want to think about it.
Similar to when the Germans built the Bismarck prior to World War I. Show of force. Okay, let's go out to the lines and welcome Henry from New Mexico on line 2. Hi, Henry. Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Cliff, and the other host? My name is Henry from Roswell, and I have a couple of questions, actually. You mentioned, Cliff, in your report something about the rural Southwest as being the last place to catch what's coming down the road in the sense of the economic and other disorders that are going to be happening here in this country. The other question the other thing I want you to address is I was recently in El Paso, and I saw a painting by a gentleman by the name of Murphy, and I couldn't help during this Christmas banquet looking at the painting on the wall that I said, that really looks interesting. It was a black interior disc with what looked like flames coming off it on the edges. And when I looked at the name of the painting, the way he had named it, he called it Black Sun. And we know that we have a minimum at this point in time where there are no black spots in the sun. When the sun enters its hyper-dimensional phase or starts reacting heavily, is there a good possibility that the sun, in all its twisting, the magnetic fields, can turn completely black? Because, as you well know, in Scripture it says, in the last days, or in the end of the age, that the sun will turn black as sackcloth. And I'll take my answers off the air.
Okay, good. Very good call. Thanks, Henry.
Let's address Henry's first question. That was the Southwest. And indeed, there appears that the Southwest has some rather unique holes in the ground that are going to draw money its direction for a while. As the federal government and the powers that be fade in other areas, it should focus that way. So to a certain extent, outside of California, let's just define the Southwest as from California over to Texas and say north as far as mid-Utah. In that region, there are some things of interest in there that will continue to draw money from the Fed for a while. So it's one of the areas we saw hanging on the longest. As to the sun turning
Richard Soddard, just a comment on that. Richard Soddard has written books on this where he's talked about the fact that the government's currently engaged in the building of massive underground bases and tunnels. So that
may well be indeed part of the process by which money is drawn there. We know that that's the case in Colorado because you can track the rise in the cement costs as you get closer to their facilities. So yes, indeed, it may be that way that we have a relatively solid economy because of the black ops spending the last of their dollars. But that really, truly is going to be part of our problem, is that the economic stuff is going to hit the shadow government, and they're going to really find themselves in a twisted position where they've got all this free energy and the ability to, remake the economy, but yet can't afford to pay their people their salaries, that kind of thing.
Understood. Okay.
And then insofar as the sun, we needn't even speculate that the sun would go black because I have a tendency to agree with this view, but there's some speculation in the Russian literature that the magnetic bubble would be sent out towards us. As the magnetic sphere winds around the sun, it gets to the point where it gets just can't take anymore, and it explodes outward in 360 degrees in all directions, basically faster than the speed of light. So from our viewpoint sitting here on Earth, indeed the sun likely would turn black because there would be this magnetically light-preventing opaque mass between us and the sun until the magnetic sphere passed over us. Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
But the sun really wouldn't turn black, but as from our perspective, we couldn't tell the difference.
Exactly. Okay, let's go out to line 3 and welcome Jim from Texas on the line. Hi, Jim. What's on your mind?
Hello. Good program tonight. I have two quick questions. Number one, the magnetic sphere, when it explodes, will that trigger an EMP that could possibly take out everything electrical on the planet, possibly lasting for days? And number two, I believe the Illuminati are in panic mode. They've lost control of the situation. And I'll take your answers off the air. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call, Jim. Cliff?
Yeah, Jim, you're quite correct about the second one. We also believe the powers that be, the Illuminati, are in panic mode and are starting to freak out all over. The EMP pulse is rather interesting because you have to think of this as being layered. The magnetic bulge that comes out from the sun indeed will cause all kinds of havoc to the satellites and so forth and electronics on the surface of the planet. But then there's going to be two other ancillary effects. As the plasma within the middle of our planet rotates and causes the magnetism of the whole planet to rotate, a giant planet-sweeping EMP will come from the middle of the Earth, as well as already having previously encountered the EMP from the magnetic bulge from the sun. Plus, after that, is likely to be a CME, or a coronal mass ejection, that would quite literally fry things like, electrical lines and this sort of thing. And we're looking at perhaps 40 or 50 years before you can rebuild the electrical system. The damage would be so extensive, assuming the continents stay the way they are.
This is why I told my wife not to let my 9-year-old listen to the show tonight.
Yes, indeed. It's kind of a problem. I have relatives that are young. I'm a sovereign individual. I accept that I'm going to cause pain and hurt by my discussions, but I can't bring myself to shield people from what I think is an accurate analysis, even though it would cause pain and hurt at that level, because it gives them an opportunity to fully accept their fate and look at reality as it exists and come to terms with it and get moving. I'm not one of those who favors stick your head in the sand until the flamethrower turns you into a roast ostrich.
Well, nor are we, or we wouldn't have invited you on the show. Let's go to Florida and welcome Joe to the show. Hi, Joe. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. You got a question for Cliff?
Yeah, actually more of a statement to let him know that I've been following his webbot for about 2.5 years now. I know it's not 100% accurate, but it's far, in my own recording, it's far better than 50%. And I want to give you two shocking headlines very recently in regards to the Israel attack on Iran. Kind of almost blew me away. The first one, I'll just give you the title, and this is from the Asia Times Online. Ill winds over Iran's nuclear draft. Thought that was interesting. The better one, which I send you an email on that anyways, but is actually today. And I'm gonna read you this email I sent my friend. This blew me away. I've mentioned that I, listen to you guys for 2 years. It says the ill winds would be the radioactive dust cloud circling the Earth from the attack on Iran, which is considered the Israeli mistake. A couple of days ago, I found that article I just mentioned to you guys, and then today, it says. This should blow everybody away. The webbot also gives a story of what happens. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. I'm just trying to go through this real quick. I'll just read you the one sentence, and they're talking again about how Israel has to hurry up. They've only got a 6-month window, according to this, and the prime minister has got 6 months to act, possibly sooner. And this is in regards to the Bashir reactor. And it says its main reactor at Bashir will have come online, and bombing it will send a radioactive dust cloud over Gulf nations. That was from, I think,
that says it all right there. We're going to have to hold it right there. Joe, thanks for the call. Cliff, I'm going to let you comment when we come back from the break, but I know you've talked about that on the webbot as well. Stay tuned, everybody. More with Dave and Annie, joined by our special guest, Cliff, after a word from our important sponsors. 1-800-313-9443 is the number to call. And as we went to the break, we had a caller ask Clif the question about discharge from the upcoming war with Iran and would negatively impact the rest of the planet. Clif, do you want to pick that up from there?
Yeah, as part of the Israeli mistake language in our lexicon, we had, maybe a year ago, maybe even a little longer, we'd start picking up this language that went to the idea of ill winds. And basically the description that we got from our details was that the Israelis would attack the Bashir reactor. And we're saying Bashir. We don't really get geographic indicators that way. But we're just assuming that's the most likely. And in essence, a mistake happens. They either use a deep bunker buster when they shouldn't, whatever, and there's some kind of a radioactive discharge that may be on the order of like Chernobyl. And instead of blowing up into the sky, it actually goes down into the ground and thus ends up hitting some kind of water or oil or natural gas or something, and gets all that radioactive, and then all that blows up like a volcano. Because we had all kinds of language indicating a volcano, in essence, spewing radioactive material out, such that the jet stream was contaminated and would continue to be contaminated for 9 times around the planet, or about 18 to, say, 30 weeks, depending on how it splits out. Death toll would be horrific, and the damage would just be incalculable.
So everything is being thrown at us, including the kitchen sink. Let's go to line 2, and we've got a caller named Barry who says he's calling from an undisclosed location. Hi, Barry. You're not calling from Area 51, are you? Hello, Barry. Are you with us?
Certificate, that's all.
Okay.
So I don't know where I am. Anyway, hey, the question is, we had a time frame, October 25th through November 4th dates, and then after that, some people are saying, hey, nothing happened. And the Clif went into hiding, and they heard nothing from him. Now, I would, I have my own comment on what I know happened. What do you say to that, Clif?
Well, indeed, the language turned on the 25th as we'd forecast. We had the reshift on the 4th as forecast. And I didn't go into hiding. I had just tons of work to do relative to getting this next report out that we brought out in December. It's not unusual for me to just disappear for a month because I have to put in 80-hour weeks to get this thing done. It was just coincident.
Yeah. So what event happened though that it wasn't in line with the
It wasn't an event per se, sir. It was a combination of things. Like on the 25th and the 26th in the period forecast, we had emotional changes come as Obama declared the national emergency relative to the swine flu, and then it just went on and on and on. I mean, I can go back and look at the records, and we had